I said all of that. I was talking for like 5 minutes, and nobody heard me because I didn't press record. I am so good at streaming. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to my audience, because I wouldn't have made it to affiliate if it wasn't for all you guys in the first place. So, thank you. Anyway, let's carry on. I had a restless night's sleep. I did nothing but turn over repeatedly during a night that seemed like it lasted for eternity. Even then, I eventually fell asleep at some point, not really realizing how high in the sky the sun had risen. Yeah, it's been a day. What was missed in the silence was I've been trying to do tech support for myself all day, because apparently there's a bug in Office or something. Anyway, hopefully I can fix it. I shook off the urge to go back to sleep. It was then that I noticed the phone was ringing. But yeah, that's the reason for the hat, is because it's affiliate day. The time was almost 10:30 in the morning. Oh no, man, you slept. It was clearly too late for a wake-up call. Akasaka-san? Good morning, it's Oishi. Waking up to the sound of Oishi's voice was a little too much of a shock. My delicate ears were ringing. But thanks to that shock, I was suddenly wide awake. Hello. Good morning. Could it be that you just now woke up? Even though it's your assignment, it's still not good to be asleep during regular business hours. You're absolutely right. I'll be more careful of this in the future. I have another tidbit that might wake you up even more. There was something interesting mixed in with the lost and found at the Hinamazawa police box. Lost and found? Let's leave the details for when you get here. You think you'll be able to make it before noon? No, I'll be there right away. Oishi already knew what my mission was. And since Oishi said it was something that would wake me up, and it was hard to believe that it would be irrelevant to me. Honestly speaking, judging by the information from Sato-san yesterday, knowing that my cover was already blown, I couldn't, wander to and from Hinamazawa carelessly. In other words, my investigation was at an impasse. There was some information there that could put me... If there was some information there that could put me back on the trail, that would be nothing less than a stroke of good fortune. Alright, 1 second while I just click and check on this. Okay, it's done. And I'll fix it when I'm done streaming, hopefully. Anyway, back to this. After vigorously washing my face, I pulled on my jacket, and hailed a taxi heading towards the Okonomiya police station. Oh, you're here! The genius Mahjong player has arrived! My apologies for being late. So exactly what popped up? With absolutely no intention of reminiscing about last night's Mahjong game, I pressed him to get to the point. It's like, no, we're not going to talk about how I was a prodigy. It's fine. Oishi, anticipating that I would act that way, cut to the chase without any resistance. Like I said earlier, something arrived from the Hinamazawa police box, lost and found this morning. Lost items that were turned over to the police box were sent to the Okonomiya station after the paperwork was filled out. Oishi pulled out a plastic bag from a drawer and laid its labeled contents on the desk. Is that a wallet? Indeed. There was small change inside, but no bills. We thought a pickpocket threw it away after pulling out the contents. At first. I didn't understand how the wallet so far removed from Tokyo could possibly be related to the kidnapping. It had drawn Oishi's attention. It could have been something dramatic, like the wallet belonged to the missing grandchild. Would a kindergartner have a wallet, though? That would be absurd. Like something that convenient would happen. If that was it, then there would probably be initials written on the wallet. Like the initials of Toshiki Unagai, the minister's grandson. T.I. Thinking like that at this point I didn't suppose that the wallet was something that could get Oishi so excited. Oishi, after putting on a pair of disposable plastic gloves, handed me the pair of the same. I didn't feel that the wallet was such an important thing, so I had my doubts about whether there was any point in putting on gloves. However, I didn't want Oishi's intentions to go to waste, so I put them on. Oishi opened up the plastic bag and pulled it out, showing me the back. As I had imagined, there were initials engraved in there. But it was slightly more detailed than what I had thought, with Toshiki I marked on. Okay, who gave the wallet to, like, a 5 to 7-year-old? She grinned at me, and with the look on his face that said, "See?" We couldn't confirm that this belonged to the minister's grandson, I informed him carefully. This wallet was irrelevant. It was nothing more than Oishi's overeagerness. First of all, there was absolutely no way this distant locale, and that the missing grandson's wallet would be found in with such convenient timing. After all, the Onigafachi Defense Alliance wasn't related to the case in the first place. So there was no way that this wallet belonged to the grandson. Why I wanted to decide that was the case, even I didn't really know. Even though what should have been a top secret case was leaked before I had even been dispatched. In this situation, how could I say that it was definitely unrelated? Would it be more prudent to pay more attention to this wallet? It had only been a couple of days since I arrived in Hinamazawa. But in those couple of days, due to a number of remarkable events, my nerves might have become just a little afraid. Just a smidge. Teensy tiny bit. Thank you, Kaito. I know, I was surprised. It's like, you get the hat today. It's like, I do? Shaking my head slightly. Wow, you've almost been subscribed to my channel for a year. That's wild. Thank you so much. But that makes me happy. That makes me happy. Thank you for the support, friendo. Yes. Okay. Up. Cleared unnecessary thoughts, like unnecessarily feelings day. She opened up the wallet zipper, revealing the contents. Inside was small change and a number of crumpled receipts. I appreciate it very much. Oishi from that jumble pulled out a folded card. Seeing that, my heart stopped for a moment. It was a card from a dental examination. Name Toshiki Inugai, and the age. Perfect match. Okay, small child had a wallet! The dentist's location was in Tokyo. There was no need to explain any further. Are we sure about this? How far was it from Tokyo to Hinamazawa? It was far enough that taking the bullet train and cars would still take several hours. Why would a wallet with a dental examination card from Tokyo inside show up in Hinamazawa? Unless they faked the... Okay, no, I mean... Conspiracy brain is going, they could have easily faked the information. Did it belong to a tourist who came from Tokyo? Or maybe a villager on vacation to Tokyo just happened to pay a visit to the dentist? No, it had to have fallen in somebody's bag by accident. In my mind, I desperately struggled to find a possible excuse as to why this wallet didn't belong to Toshiki Inugai. It was as if it wouldn't just do for this wallet to belong to him. Yeah, because that is just kind of like, what? However, weeding out any possibility of error one by one, the haze surrounding the wallet in front of me faded gradually, letting it come into clear focus. See? Felt a shiver of electricity run up my spine. My pulse quickened, and a thin film of sweat began to coat my entire body. From Oishi's point of view, I was probably slack-jawed and spaced out, with a slovenly look on my face. Did you get the information from the dental office? That's your job, Akasaka-san. I didn't go that far. When did this wallet show up? The person who picked it up was a villager. They did so yesterday, it seems. Not that. I mean, when was this wallet dropped? It rained here last week, exactly 7 days ago. Doesn't look like the contents are water damage, so the longest it could have been was probably 6 days? Does anybody else at the station acknowledge the existence of this wallet? The officer who first encountered it at the Hinamazawa police box. And also the 2 or 3 people in charge of the lost and found. Other than that, it's just me and you. If it involved a classified case, it'd be bad to talk about it, wouldn't it? I didn't intend to wag my tongue. May I borrow the phone? Go ahead. Dial 0 to get to an outside line. I dialed the phone number inscribed on the examination card. I could hear my pulse pounding in my head. Could there be a possibility of something so absurd? I mean, it's Higurashi, so yes. The address on the receipts and card inside the wallet were all from around the area where the grandson lived. The name on the examination card was also a match. The time we deduced that the wallet had been left behind also matched up with the timeline of the kidnapping. Of course, it was possible I could just laugh it off as a big pile of coincidences. There wasn't any strong evidence. Rather than all this circumstantial proof, the contents of the phone call I was about to make would have a much greater meaning. Hello, sorry to keep you waiting. This is whatever dental office. Hello, this is the whatever police. I have a misplaced wallet here and I'm trying to get in contact with the owner. Would you be able to help me? Inside the wallet there is an examination card from your office. Yes, the name is Toshiki Inugai. If I give you the number on the card, would you be able to look up the phone number? Yes, thank you. If you could. Still holding the receiver, I pulled out a notebook from my breast pocket with my free hand. I opened it up to the pages with the grandson's address and phone number recorded on it. Yes, hello? Yes, go ahead. I compared the phone number written in my notebook to the one being read out into the other end of the line. During that process, I spun around and looked behind me uneasily. I locked eyes with Oishi. Oishi looked puzzled. But I was. Why would I feel uneasy and look behind me? Kagome, indeed. Who's behind me now? That was because the person on the end of the line was reading out the numbers as though doing so straight from my notebook. Seemed that HQ was in quite an uproar thanks to my report. No matter how many times the authenticity of the evidence I had linked to the grandson was called into question, I could only respond that it was the truth. When the lead investigator first picked up the phone, I was grilled about the evidence I'd found that was almost too good to be true, if I do say so myself. But after doubt dispelled, he fell into silence. The receiver was finally handed over to the section chief. When he picked up the background, thrum of the other end of the line disappeared, and I knew that it had gone completely silent. After asking the same question about the wallet that the lead investigator did, the chief quietly spoke his next words. Got it. We'll dispatch several people as reinforcements. We should be able to make it there by evening. Akasaka, please continue with your investigation of the area. Get some information on the spot where the wallet was found. Hana-san will select some people and head directly there. The fact that he was sending Kano, the lead investigator, here meant it was possible that the chief had decided there was a possibility that the Onigakachi Defense Alliance were somehow implicit in the kidnapping. However, until the lead investigator, whom he trusted, had verified the evidence with his own eyes, he was still going to be skeptical about it. How'd it go? It seems that HQ he was sending on reinforcements. I was ordered to investigate the area. Oh no, we're dying! Oh hey, we're back! We live? We good? Love you, internet. Where was the wallet dropped? Around, Takasudo, apparently. This is Okonomiya. All the way over there? All the way over here? This is Hinamazawa. Then, even further upstream, way around here, is Takasudo? So she explained where the wallet was found by pointing to locations on the map on the wall. This place called Takasudo was even more remote than Hinamazawa was. There's hardly anybody living in the area around Takasudo. It was deserted a long time ago. Perfect to hold a kidnapped child. It's littered with abandoned houses, so it's really quite desolate around there. Oishi-san, could I ask you to guide me up to Takasudo? Yeah, I don't mind. You can't really get in and out of Hinamazawa as you please by yourself, after all. Of course, I have to make you wear a cap and mask again. That Oishi had agreed to accompany was very reassuring. Sato-san's info was to be believed, and the cover had been blown. I wasn't sure if the villagers had realized the fresh meat dispatch from public safety was tourists that had visited them in the village yesterday, in other words, me. But deciding that they hadn't noticed would have been overly optimistic. You were cleared out by a bus full of people. Given a cursory thought, Takasudo, where the wallet was found, couldn't be ruled out as a hiding spot for kidnappers. The Takasudo area didn't have any residential buildings, nor was it alongside a highway. There wasn't a reason for even the locals to go out of their way to visit. It was exactly what you would call a long-forgotten ghost town at the end of a road. Didn't ask for a better place to hold a kidnapped grandson. That's what I've been saying! Also, you can get to Takasudo without passing through Hinamazawa first. With several conditions made the area all the more important. You couldn't brush it off any longer. There's no longer any doubt that the Onagakuchi Defense Alliance or somebody who hired by them were involved in the kidnapping. If that was the case, and the fact that this wallet was found might have already been leaked to them. We even know so much about how Public Safety Division was operating. This wallet couldn't be something they didn't know. In that case, there was a possibility that the enemy was lying in wait. To drive alone into enemy territory surrounded by... To drive alone into enemy territory surrounded by enemy territory, to say the least, required an amount of courage, nay, recklessness that I just did not have. A little too many enemy territories in that sentence. Anyway! Without your company, Oishi-san, I wouldn't be able to step into the village so easily. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Honestly, I thought you would ask for more money. Well, if we're both being honest, Hinamazawa isn't exactly a place I like to go to. I'd at least appreciate if you paid for the cab fare. Still, it's not a request. I can refuse from a friend that it's played at the same table as me. Still, it's not a request that I can refuse from... Okay, he's talking about Mom. She grinned as he pounded me on the back. It struck me that he didn't want to jump ship rather than having any sort of sense of duty towards his job. Even so, that didn't really matter. Right now, I really appreciated the gesture. Well then, shall we hurry up and get going? The enemy knows that the police have obtained the wallet. Then they would probably have moved the hostage to a different place. There wasn't a moment to lose. Higurashi, without regard of that fact, regard to the fact that we were about to head out, began removing his jacket. What are you doing? Well, just a precaution. If you want me to poke the beehive to get your honey, I have to be rather well prepared, you see. Get the bulletproof vest. Do you want to put one on too? What Oishi pulled from the drawer below his desk was a stab-proof vest. Yeah? His name was Toshiki Inugai, grandson of the Minister of Construction Inugai. There was only one reason for him being here. He didn't include gym or art class. His grades were above average. That was the result of having private tutoring sessions twice a week. If you omitted the fact that he still couldn't do pull-ups, there wasn't much else that would make him hate school. Of course, he understood full well that his grandfather was a cabinet minister. But he also knew that not too many people were that interested in their relationship. He didn't like to go out of his way to bring up his grandfather, or to call him the Minister of Construction. And finally, he at least tried to know a little more about what kind of work the Minister of Construction did than your average Joe. What that entailed was that when you tried your best to make life better for the masses, sometimes you made a few enemies. Which, yeah. He knew that all too well from the time he'd spent as a class representative. His grandfather had many enemies. He knew that he might personally catch some of the fallout, so he had to be twice as cautious. He's tiny! He was taught that by his parents. That's why, the moment he was kidnapped, he instantly knew that this was one of those occasions. Oh, they had to teach him so early. He understood that he wasn't being treated as Toshiki Inugai, the person, but rather as Toshiki Inugai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction. That he wasn't personally at fault, but that this was the result of some unavoidable trouble of his grandfather's work. Which, I mean, what a trooper of a kid going, oh yeah, this isn't about me. It made little difference, but when he realized it wasn't because of anything he did, he was able to relax, if only a little. Of course, at first he was struck with terror befitting his age, wondering what was going to happen to him. But after a while of being tied up and only able to stay lying down, he began to ponder a great many things. First, he thought about the reason he was being abducted like this. He understood the answer to that easily. He was taken hostage to coerce his grandfather, the minister. There was no doubt about that. He didn't know exactly what the Minister of Construction did, but it was easy to imagine that there was much to be gained from threatening him. He respected his grandfather more than most. He earnestly believed that his own grandfather was within the top 20 of the most important people in Japan. That was exactly why he wouldn't forgive anybody who tried to threaten his beloved grandfather. More importantly, he wouldn't forgive anybody who used him as a tool to threaten his grandfather. His grandfather was really busy and rarely had time to meet with relatives. That's why, with what little time he did manage to scrape together, he just dropped by unannounced. And as an apology for not being able to meet during New Year's or summer vacation, he doted on his grandson very, very much. The number of times that Toshiki was looked upon with disregard just because his grandfather was a politician and minister certainly weren't few. But he never thought even once that he wanted his grandfather to quit being a politician. Because it was his beloved grandfather, he wanted him to continue his career as long as possible from the bottom of his heart. However, Toshiki was now being held hostage and his grandfather was being threatened. His grandfather, who called him the apple of his eye, was surely suffering. He might do anything to save his grandson. Maybe even putting aside his ideology if it was required to save his grandson. He might even give in to the culprit's demands if it meant saving his grandson. When Toshiki thought about that, an inexplicable anger welled up in him. In his current situation, he was unable to forgive the cowards who would make his beloved grandfather suffer by using such dastardly means. That feeling swelled up inside him, displacing the fear. What he thought of first was something any boy would imagine. Get out of these bonds, beat up the bad guys, and then hand them over to the police. Sir, you're like 8, if not younger. Images of all the brave heroes from all the manga he'd read passed through the back of his mind. In his imaginary scenario, he slipped his bonds easily, floating like a butterfly to evade his captors, then stinging like a bee to bring them all down. In the end, it was nothing more than his silly little fantasy, but with his vision obstructed and unable to see anything, it was something that he could get into more and more than any anime at the moment. In actuality, he was enjoying these little scenarios in his head for long periods of time when he was tied up. His captors hadn't really done anything to him that they would feel sorry for. However, eventually he began to grow tired of his fantasies, and more realistic scenarios began to run through his head. It was then they realized that none of them were a solution. Yes, he wanted to do something for his grandfather who was being threatened. That he was being held here to inflict pain on his grandfather was the thing that he could least forgive, and also the most vexing. And then he noticed there was a much simpler way he could save his grandfather without having to beat up his despicable captors. That was to remove himself as a hostage from the hands of these villains. If he were to disappear from here, his captors would have nothing to threaten his grandfather with. The captors had restrained him, but they didn't treat him roughly, and they made sure he was fed well enough. Meaning at most, he was nothing more than the means for their threat. They weren't looking to bully or kill him out of spite. And that's good, at least. He's still a small child. If he behaved, no ill would befall him. Realizing that gave him a strong sense of courage. And carrying his train of thought this far, he'd let it run through the course of its natural conclusion. Right now, at this moment, Toshiki Inugai had decided to escape. His ears had been stuffed with a sponge-like material acting like makeshift earplugs. However, they didn't actually do much to block out any sound, and he could overhear everything his captors were saying. It's probably just muffled. Realizing that this was to his advantage, even when his captors spoke to him, he acted like he couldn't hear to them due to the earplugs. His captors, thinking he couldn't hear their conversations, talked about all sorts of things without any reservations. Thanks to that, he was able to obtain various pieces of information. First off, this wasn't Tokyo. It seemed like this was quite a distance away and on top of the in the countryside, nestled deep within the mountains. It also seemed that his captors were inconvenienced living out here, so he could deduce that this place was far removed from any sort of town. Finally, whenever they went out to buy food or other supplies, they would always take a car. That fact caused him some dismay.
Oh, thank you, Liv! And thank you for the lurk!
Because he knew that the method he learned at school of running around blindly with shouting for help wouldn't work here. He paused his little mental escape scenario there. His ultimate goal was to find somebody who would help him, because he's a small child. If somebody would fit that description wasn't close by, his chances of escaping successfully grew slim. A desolate, far-off land deep in the mountains. A place where you couldn't even go shopping without using a car. In this situation, escaping would be very difficult. He grew depressed, and after a little while, he returned to his original scenario. Imagining becoming a hero like in the manga he read, beating down his captors became his respite. However, as he played those delusions out in his head, his heart, hating to surrender, continued to search for a way to escape. And then, he thought of a way. If the goal was far away, then all he had to do was get closer. His goal, in a nutshell, was to find somebody who could help him. In other words, somebody other than his captors. If he faked being sick, then his captors would have to take him to the hospital, or bring a doctor to him. Then they would probably be reluctant to do that. But he already knew that the hostage was more important than anything. In the odd chance that something happened, like him dying occurred, they wouldn't be able to threaten anybody anymore. Luckily, he had experience with that would help him fake a serious illness. At the end of last year, he was inadvertently involved in a car accident and had to undergo surgery. The scar from that surgery was still clearly visible on his lower torso. He recalled the pain and suffering from that time. The existence of that experience would make a huge impact on the realism of his performance. He was quite confident in his ability to fake an illness. Go for it, kid. His captors first looked at as a sign he needed to use the washroom. Untying only his arms, they tried to bring him to there whilst he's still blindfolded. But he didn't try to get up. His hands, now flurry, only clutched his abdomen while he writhed in agony. Hey, what's wrong? Does your stomach hurt? He still had his earplugs in, so he had to pretend he didn't hear his captors asking the questions. He was about to nod, so he hurriedly had to stop himself. What's the matter? Yeah, the kid's clutching his stomach. Must be a stomachache or something. His captors looked down on his suffering form for a bit. One of them proposed a course of action while another laid his doubts that Toshiki might be faking it. What's wrong, boy? Your tummy hurt? His ears are plugged, so he can't hear you. Oh, that's a problem. Do we got any medicine that works on stomach pain? Might want to go to the pharmacy and buy some. When it comes to stomach pains, there's a bunch of different meds, isn't there? As long as we don't know the cause, we shouldn't just buy him any old medicine. He's old enough. His stomach might be just constipated. But if you buy some medicine for that, maybe that'll calm it down. Won't kill him if we're wrong, neither. Don't decide something on your own like that. It might be appendicitis or something. My uncle suddenly got it a while ago. That was pretty scary. One of the captors leaned beside the boy, who was bent over in agony. I feel so sorry for the kid. Well, his whole body's covered in sweat. Is it your stomach? Does it hurt? Hey, if it hurts, you shouldn't clutch at it so tightly. It'll only make it worse. Realizing that his captors were concerned about his stomach, he inadvertently let his shirt right up, letting the scar from the surgery come into plain view. His vision was still obscured with packing tape, so he couldn't see their reaction to the scar. But his captors were taken aback, and judging from the momentary silence, he had obtained the reaction he was looking for. What a smart kid. Hey, this is bad. This scar it's not that old. Does the boy have a fever? Is there a thermometer around? No way. No way we'd have one. But that's a lot of sweat. Yeah, his forehead feels pretty hot, I think. I've heard that under prolonged stress, old wounds can be aggravated. Well, then what do we do? Are you saying that medication won't work? I don't know what surgery this scar is from. But in any case, this is bad. In the worst case, it could be fatal. This is bad. This is really, really bad. Maybe we should have a doctor take a look at it. At this rate, there's a chance that he might suddenly die on us. Toshiki Inugai, with those few words, knew that the situation was progressing exactly as he had envisioned it, and snickered to himself on the inside. Pressed his act even further. Didn't even need to see to know that his captors were panicked and running around like chickens with their head cut off at his troublesome turn of events. Should we take him to the clinic? No, that's no good. Probably better if the doctor came here. Dr. Irie, you mean? Is that okay? Will that be all right? It'd be worse if anything happened to the hostage. Nothing we can do. It's an emergency. One of the captors hurriedly left in the car. Another of the men, completely shaken up by this point, wiped sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. It looked like they were bringing in a doctor. As long as the doctor wasn't an accomplice, that doctor was his goal. He was someone he could seek help from. His captors were probably wary of that happening. They would be prepared for it. This would all come down to luck. Some of the sweat emerging from his brow was that of nervousness. At that moment, the packing tape that was covering his eyes and ears were torn off. Burning light that he was seeing for the first time in several days hurt his eyes. After that, the gag mat made it hard for him to breathe was also removed. Are you alright, kid? We're bringing a doctor to you right now. Just hold on for a bit. Yeah. The doctor was coming. Now, how was he going to ask for help, and how was he going to get away from his captors? A plethora of thoughts began swirling in his mind.
Yay, I'm glad you're cozy.
I think you know this already, but don't say anything unnecessary to the doctor. We don't want to hurt you or anything. Do you understand that, right? Toshiki Inugai nodded while feigning pain and obedience. His expectations and the enemy's expectations. Whether they doubted he was faking his illness or not, he knew that was his goal, and he would try to stop it. His stomach contracted from the stress of the gambit, making it seem like his stomach really was starting to hurt. No, it really was, but there was no reason to panic. If he failed with his approach to the doctor, there was nothing to lose. There was something to lose. It was his method of begging Illis to get in touch with the doctor. He could think of other methods from here on out. It wasn't much. But at present, this was the easiest and most dramatic way he could think of. The more he thought about it, the more it looked like this was his first and last gambit. You're like 8! Eventually, he heard the sound of a car approaching once again. The sound of the car door being hurriedly opened and shut. The sound of several footsteps approaching. A young man in a white medical coat, who should go jump in a lake. I'm gonna go sit real quick before we get on to whatever this is. And just reposition real quick. As he acknowledged the boy, a suspicious look showed itself on his face. He's like, "What's going on here?" Who's he? He's not one of the kids from the village, is he? The captors didn't respond. From the looks of it, the young doctor had realized that this was an abnormal situation. Oh my gosh, you're observant! Good job, Irie! One of the captors talked threateningly. That's got nothing to do with you, Doc. Suspicious. For a while, the doctor and the captor silently glared at one another. However, unable to stand the sight of the boy continuing to suffer, the doctor, as the captors had hoped, didn't press any further. I'm concerned about this old surgical scar. What kind of operation was it? We don't know. I should really bring him back to the clinic. Doc, we really can't. We really can't. Doc, we really can't really do that. Too many reallys. Anyway. It's more like, Doc, we really can't do that. The doctor said he wanted to bring the boy back to the clinic. Wow! Thank you for the resub, Soul.
Hi!
Wow. Cool.
Let's see.
But the captors simply silently shook their heads at the notion. It was a fleeting hope, but it was only natural the captors would refuse. At that moment, his eyes met with the doctor's.
Hugs for you too.
Seeing that the boy's painful state was abnormal, the doctor suspected it was a serious illness.
Yes, Hazel is a good girl.
Are you alright? I'm a doctor. When was this surgical scar from?
Aw, that's okay. If you need me to come beat up your brain, I'll do that. But, good luck. Last year, during the winter, from an accident.
An accident? I see. This is a problem. Couldn't let the doctor figure out that he was faking it here. He had to somehow figure out a way to keep this going and tell the doctor he was being confined and needed help. I'm going to touch the afflicted area, okay? If it hurts, tell me where. Seeing that it was extremely painful, the doctor crossed his arms and began to ponder. He had to somehow get him to a hospital. Toshiki Unagai faking this illness was the performance of a lifetime! Good work, everyone. I know it's hot, but please do your best. If you catch anybody illegally dumping, please contact someone immediately. We'll act quickly. Thank you for your cooperation, Oishi-san. Please. A gap wide enough for a single car was opened up in the barricade. Oishi-san, showing his gratitude, or perhaps a threatening attitude, was With a short beep on the horn, rolled the car forward through the checkpoint. This time my appearance was the embodiment of the word suspicious. Now he's just trolling you. A baseball cap, a mask, and sunglasses. On top of that, even though it was sweltering, I was wearing a hoodie. Any respectable police officer would loathe to not stop me for questioning. I meant to be overcautious, knowing full well that my face was known. But it might have already been too late for that to have any use. Using that as an excuse, I doffed the unbearably hot hoodie and windbreaker, ripped off the mask and hat, and threw them in the seat behind me. Oh no, your brilliant disguise! Oh my, is that okay? With a cheap little disguise like this. I probably figured it out anyways. That just might be the case. Yeah, no, he was totally just trolling with you. Well, she probably thinking that my unexpected behavior was funny, continued to laugh. The beautiful and pristine scenery of Hinamizawa spread out before me. The village itself would have been quite beautiful if it weren't for the complicated circumstances surrounding at the moment. I would absolutely love to take Yukie here for a drive one day. Come to think of it, I didn't get a chance to call her last night. Surely she's not dead! I played around with the idea in my head. But in reality, this village wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Boy howdy, if you only knew. I had heard everything at the prefectural headquarters. At the heart of this village, the intelligent network, that the three families wielded due to blood ties and regional relationships, was unbelievably well organized. I missed the was earlier in the sentence. Their net spread not only around Hinamizawa itself, but encapsulated in the entirety of the city of Shishibone as well. When I first heard that somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I didn't take it completely seriously. How could a local organization out of the boonies here have something so grandiose? I couldn't deny that somewhere in the back of my mind I had ridiculed the thought. But not only were they really threatening the minister, but they had demonstrated that they had a complete grasp on our movements, which was supposed to be top secret. They were almost like a secret police that controlled the Eastern Europe country like in a spy novel. The villagers here wouldn't bat an eye at getting their hands dirty if it meant fighting the dam project. I also heard something like that at the prefectural headquarters. Now that you mention it, when I first arrived here, Oshi also had said that the place was a war zone, didn't he? The residents of the village were at the same time freedom fighters. Yeah, it really just depends on whose side you're on. Although by definition they were no more different than guerrillas or militia. They weren't protected by the Geneva Convention, but they also didn't have to adhere to those rules either. This place was more of a quagmire than any legitimate battlefield. A secret war was unfolding. I could drive along because Oishi was with me. But if I was to leave his car for even something as trivial as looking for a vending machine, there was a chance I wouldn't return. Even though a single shot hadn't been fired, this was a battlefield. No, the reason why bullets weren't flying was simply because it was hard for civilians to obtain a gun in Japan. Yep. It is hard for a civilian to obtain a gun in Japan. So they were probably just equipped with weapons other than guns that were easier to obtain. That was why she was wearing a stab-proof vest, wasn't it? Akasaka-san, are you nervous? The fact that I was apprehensive was, of course, picked up by Oishi. He had already figured it out. There was no point in trying to deny or hide it. Of course I am. We're headed into the heart of enemy territory alone, aren't we? I'm worried if something unlikely happens with just the two of us. Something unlikely? Nyahaha. It'll be alright. Isn't everybody in the village our enemy? If everybody gets their stories straight, they could murder someone in broad daylight, and there wouldn't be a shred of evidence. I'm asking about something like that. This was what the ironclad rule of not barging into the Yakuza office alone was about. If there wasn't a neutral party involved, that area wasn't bound by the laws of common sense. If something happened, you wouldn't be able to prove it. And there wasn't anybody who would take your side. It was pretty much the definition of poking the bear. Don't poke the bear! Doc is sleepy, leave him alone! I've left word that we're headed towards the Hinamazawa area. And in the worst case, we've also got a radio. I know you're scared, Akasaka-san, but it's not that easy to pull off the perfect crime. Only in fiction. Well, of course, that doesn't mean we can't let our guard down either. Akasaka-san, you're too worked up over this. You were more relaxed last night when we came up here together, weren't you? Whose fault is that for scaring him? Laughing it off, Oishi thumped his chest and grinned as if to say I could depend on him. Well, if it really gets iffy, this comes with having the badge. Oishi made a motion, sticking out his index finger. It was undoubtedly the image of a gun. Will it be of any use? If you're not afraid of dealing with the aftermath after you shoot, it's actually very reassuring. An officer's gun was only for show. And if you really wanted to fire it, there was quite a number of stipulations, and you had to be prepared for the long probationary period afterwards. That definitely wasn't worth it. So even if an officer did unholster his gun, there wasn't one who actually wanted to pull the trigger. Akasaka-san, are you carrying one? A piece? Well, yeah. You ever fired it? I have. For training, though. Well, I guess that'd be true. Niff. Well then, have you, Oishi-san? Me? Nyahaha. Nah, there's no way. What was that? I thought he was laughing at me because he had experience. The two of us laughed together. I've also never pointed the barrel at anybody. I've looked down at the barrel of a gun a few times, though. Just being made to look down at the barrel like that is enough to shorten your lifespan by about 3 years. Even if he had never fired a gun before. You couldn't even begin to comprehend the amount of experience Oishi had over me. At a time like this, I could only marvel again at how reliable Oishi seemed. Come to think of it, I didn't want to come to this way in the middle of the day. But there's no way for the car to get through other than here. Akasaka-san, just in case, put on the mask again. Hide your face, please. What's the matter? Can you not hear because the air conditioning's too loud? I'll turn it off. Try opening the window. When I opened the window, a blast of hot air blew inside, and then I could hear angry yelling coming from far away. At that moment, the forest gave way to either side of us, and our view expanded suddenly. And there could be seen the Hinamazawa Dam construction grounds. The very front line for the Hinamazawa village. We're absolutely opposed to the construction of the Hinamazawa Dam! The crackling blare of someone's voice sounded over an enormous loudspeaker. A roar of angry voices continued to rumble. The incredible volume had become a veritable cannon, spewing out its ammunition. The prefabricated site office was surrounded by 2 seats of high fences laced with barbed wire. They're like, do not come in here. Lined up in front where those fences were riot police in their vehicles. And surrounding it all were the villagers. They howled their protest against the dam as a single entity. Oh, there's not too many of them today. Renlock. That's not too many? Yeah, when there's a whole lot of the crowd reaches as far as the road. You wouldn't even be able to inch forward in a car. At first, due to their overwhelming intensity, it looked to me like there were more people than there actually were. But upon closer inspection, there were at most 50 to 70 of them. But the 6 or 7 propaganda trucks lined up that looked like they belonged to a band of thugs were a strange enough sight. The villagers were also wearing helmets and bandanas, as well as covering their faces with masks, adding to the oddity of it all. Remember, kids, if you're gonna protest, be safe about it. The propaganda trucks, after all, braying their chorus, had their volume turned up even higher and began to flood the area with sutras. To say that the noise was downright violent wouldn't be an understatement. From this distance, it was still this loud. The glass in the office was probably rattling from the noise. Yeah, welcome to the point! They can't do anything there but take it. Those riot squad guys, every one of them is wearing earplugs, but they're still having their hearing damaged. Poor sobs. Can't you do something about the noise? About it with the noise ordinance laws? Our prefecture doesn't have any laws regarding noise ordinance. Yeah, they probably looked that up and were like, oh, here's a tactic we can use. We're gonna use it. Also, those are sutras, right? We can't regulate religious activities. Those guys are pretty smart. See, they looked into it. Is what I think Oishi said. Actually, no matter how tightly the window was shut, the booming sound of the sutras still filled the car. I couldn't even hear what Oishi, who was sitting right next to me, was saying. As the car approached the line of propaganda trucks, the blare became difficult to bear. It wasn't enough just to plug my ears with my fingers. I had to hold my head to keep my skull from splitting apart. If I had seen the terrifying energy sooner, I probably would have understood what Hinamizawa village was much quicker. Now I knew. They wouldn't blink an eye at sacrificing themselves in order to protect their hometown. So goddamn noisy. Shut up. My head throbbed and it felt like it was going to split apart. My eardrums crackled, and on top of that, I felt like I was going to throw up. The road crowded with throngs of spotters and propaganda trucks and the riot police vehicles. It was no easy way to get by. Even if you tried to shoo the squatters with the car horn. They were also wearing earplugs, oblivious to the noise from the outside world, and wouldn't easily move. The car could only inch forward at a snail's pace. Even then, the car eventually got through, starting to leave the tumultuous noise behind. Tumultuous, that is the word. Hey, the bald guy that was playing Mahjong with us last night. Remember him? I remembered that there was an older person who didn't exactly mince words. That guy that Oishi called Old Man. There was someone like that. You see, he's the foreman of the main construction site. He's probably holed up in that prefab building trying to work while irritated out of his mind. Poor fella. He wouldn't be able to stand it if it was like that every day.
Oh, hello, Kitty. Are you gonna get cozy over there? Okay. Carry on, then.
Yeah. There's no end to the number of people who can't handle it and quit. But every time that happens, their wages go up, so I wouldn't say it's in vain. Even having to deal with all that noise and hostility, they still made a wage that Oishi found enviable. Which, I mean, fair. It's like, yeah, we can't. All we can do is pay you more money. Damn it, these guys. Can they hear, or can't they? A group of squatters were in the way of the car. Oishi, sufficiently annoyed, laid into the horn, but there was no indication that they were moving anytime soon. In this din, could they not even hear a car horn? Or did they hear it, and were they being malicious? If there was any riot police nearby, they would have made people move, but it just so happened that there weren't any around here. Ah, jeez. Wait just a minute. Oishi opened the door. The hot air and even more heated roar of the crowd spilled into the car. Oishi said something as he grinned widely, but I couldn't hear what it was. It was clearly exclamation point 1, 2, 3, 4. He was getting them to move. Something like that. Oishi stepped into the car and closed the door. The din faded slightly. I stared blankly as Oishi headed towards the group and started some sort of conversation. Maybe we'd find the minister's grandson at Takasudo? At the very least, I wanted to find him there. Find him and slip the cursed bonds of this incomprehensible village. I could only pray. At that moment, a shadow was suddenly cast over me. Somebody was standing right outside the passenger side window, blocking the sunlight. I spun around, looked up, and realized who the backlit figure was. Huh? It was a girl. It was Rika Furude. The girl stared down at me with a bored look in her eyes. I didn't have any justification for it, but I felt like I'd been found out by somebody I shouldn't have been found out by. To fill the silence, I raised my hand and mouthed a meek greeting. Of course, there was no way she heard my small voice in this clamor. But even then, she should have seen my wave my hand in greeting. In spite of that, she simply stared down at me with a cold look on her face. At that moment, the noise and the heat spread throughout the car once again. Oishi had returned to the driver's seat. Taking a look, the group that was blocking the road had started to move aside, while glaring our way. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Shall we go? Oishi registered the figure of the girl behind me. One of the villagers came over and picked her up. In that manner of, it's dangerous, so get away. They just picked up a child. It was as though it was then that she whispered one or two words, however, I couldn't hear any of it. Well then, let's go. I'm going to gun it, okay? But of course, it was still within speed limit. Just more than 2 miles per hour. As if to shake off the still audible angry voices, Oishi floored the gas. Along with the roar and the din and the shouting, the villagers and the girl quickly disappeared behind us. As soon as we were through here, we're in Takasudo. Are you okay if we end up getting into a firefight? Don't be fumbling with the safety at the last moment, you hear? Oishi laughed mockingly again. I was more concerned with what the girl had said, however, as I was vaguely bothered by it. What was she trying to say with that apathetic and candid expression? Suppose it's normal if you're nervous from here on out. But if you don't deal with it, there's a chance you might do something rash. There's no longer a way to confirm that the girl had tried to tell me. It might have been that the girl who warned me to go back to Tokyo again, or else was saying something to me who was now ignoring that warning. Even though I warned you. What a fool. I had a feeling she had said something like that. Yes? No tips. If you were to call Hinamizawa a rather lonely village, then Takasudo was outright desolate. For your everyday city boy like me, I just couldn't understand why anybody would force themselves to live here. Probably because they don't have a choice. There were signs that people had, but they were all covered in dust or enveloped in ivy, indicating that it was abandoned. They really lived in a place like this, didn't they? Well, it was a really long time ago. A remote place like this is pretty rough for old folk to live. And the younger people probably wanted to try living in a more suitable place. There's nobody left to take the reins. All that gets left is this. Even if I had no personal attachment to the village, seeing the disused buildings made me feel a little sentimental. It seemed that Oishi also felt the same way. Was the wallet found over here? person who found it must have had a good reason to come out into this desolate place. Yeah, there's some villagers who have a field out in the mountains here. They pass here in the morning and the evenings. Villagers who work in the fields walk by here every day? No way. They probably go as far as they can by car. So in the early mornings and evenings, they pass by here and just happen to find a single wallet? They probably did. Yeah. Where exactly did they say they found it? In the thickets and just a bit further ahead. The person who found the wallet just happened to have some stomach cramps and was planning to use the thicket to do his business, it seems. Alright, sure, why not? It was there that he happened to find it. Probably hoping there was some toilet paper in there. Use the receipts! No. Everything about that story just seemed a little too convenient. Yeah, huh? I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I expressed that feeling that I had from the start of the day, quite frankly. It seemed too good to be true, but this was unwavering proof. But it was too perfect, sickeningly so. That was my feeling. You might actually be onto something you're saying if it's a little too perfect. Meaning? The truth is, I heard a little something from a friend of mine in the 4th Division, where Oryu Sonozaki referenced the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. She referenced it? Yeah. It's been several days since the minister's grandson had been kidnapped, poor boy. It'd be nice if they let him go soon. It seemed that old Oryu had muttered something like that on her veranda. And while little musing was conveyed in the various people working deep behind the scenes at the Sonozaki family. Right, I had heard something similar from Sato-san, the informant. When the leader Oryu had concern somebody in the family would be considerate. So, in essence, she gave the order to release the hostage? I see it that way. The wallet's being conveniently discovered was just a ploy to hand the boy over to the police. Why would they release the hostage? Nyahaha. Well, there's only one reason why somebody would release a hostage, isn't there? What is it? They reached a deal. That would mean that the minister promised to halt the Hinamazawa Dam project. The dam project will definitely go away. At that moment, the words of the girl had said resurfaced in the back of my mind. In the end, it was turning out exactly as she had proclaimed. The young girl knew the circumstances. She knew everything about the kidnapping incident from the beginning to the end. Misaka? The girl unexpectedly called my name. What is it? Go back to Tokyo. For long, we'll woefully regret coming to this village. That would be an incredibly pathetic thing to see. So I thought I'd warn you right now. Your wife is probably gonna die in childbirth, Why would I come to regret it? Stop whining. When you tried crossing the road when the don't walk sign was up, did your parents finish explaining why it was dangerous before pulling you back into the sidewalk? They'd pull you back right away, wouldn't they? They'd pull you back before explaining why it was dangerous, wouldn't they? In other words, something like that. The girl, who knew everything from the start to finish, had warned me from the beginning. Go back to Tokyo. Hakusaka is such a coward. We'll probably just find the boy, but what happens afterwards will probably be a bit of a problem. Oh, it'll be a problem though, something a single officer like me can't figure out. Do you know? A girl named Rika Furude? What I said about such a non sequitur that Oishi was sat stunned into silence for a while. Of course I know her. She's the only daughter of the Furude family, one of the 3 families. What kind of girl is she? Well, this is an unexpected name to hear. I'm a bit surprised. Does public safety think that the Furude family smells fishy and wants to keep an eye on them? Share some of that information with me, please. No, it's not like that. It's just something that caught my attention. Nyahaha, well, whatever. It wouldn't do to answer any questions from a friend I've sat at the same table with. I'm honored that you call me a friend. So that little lady is, well, somewhat of a village mascot. She's beloved by everybody in the village. Some of the older folk worship her especially. Worship? I don't know much about it, you see. Girls born into the Furudai family have somewhat of a sacred implication, it seems. It's one of the local beliefs in Hinamizawa. The living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, or something like it. Or so the story goes, apparently. Oyashiro-sama? Now that you mention it, I think I saw Oyashiro-sama written on some of the Alliance's banners. What is Oyashiro-sama exactly? That's the name of the guardian deity of Hinamizawa. They believe it'll exact punishment on those who would do ill will towards the villagers. Well, if there's such a convenient god around, the guys of the dam would have long since been done in by divine justice. Luckily, nothing like that has happened to anybody just yet. Grandson of the minister who trifled with the village as a result of Oyashiro-sama's anger was... what did they call it again? Oh, right, Onikakushi. The minister's grandson was demoned away. That would probably be how the script is being written. Nyahaha, I see. This probably would turn into something like that. Fine punishment brought by Oyashiro-sama. Then the culprit, the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. That girl? Nyahaha. Even if I didn't know exactly what I was saying, and the fact that Oishi laughed it off was a bit of a relief. Oishi's joyous laughter was so infectious that I began to laugh like an idiot as well. Oh, this is unusual. Oishi, after laying into the horn several times, rolled the window down and leaned out, waving his arm in an exaggerated manner. There was a car headed in the opposite way. Until now, we hadn't run into any other cars except our own. And of all the places, it was this desolate location. It seemed that Oishi knew the owner of the car. Oh, it's probably Yurie. The other car was also tripped apart and came to a stop. Dr. Yurie! Oh. Resolution? Good afternoon. The other car's window rolled down slowly, revealing a young man in a white overcoat. He was about my age, or perhaps a bit older. But you really can't judge somebody by their appearance. Yeah. Because nobody ever gets my age correct. Why, if it isn't Oishi-san. Good afternoon. Haha, fancy meeting you here. That's my line, Doctor. I never thought I'd see you here. What happened? Oh, nothing. It's just a little house call. Oh, really? Was it an emergency? No, nothing quite that serious. Thankfully. I'll take my leave here. If I don't get back quickly, my staff will be angry with me. Naha. Being the head of a clinic must be tough. Well then, take care. The young doctor named Irie, after gesturing his farewell, drove forwards and soon disappeared around a corner. Oishi also drove forwards, but soon came to a stop again. Pulled out a worn map book from the dash. His expression didn't have an ounce of irrelevance. He was perfectly serious. What is it? The clinic shouldn't be making an emergency house call today. It must have been quite an emergency, or otherwise a patient with some extenuating circumstances. Oishi flipped through the pages, opening up a map of Takasudo. And after that, he looked around and started to figure out where our current location was. Are you saying the emergency is suspicious? Didn't I say? There's hardly anybody that lives in Takasudo these days. That road we're on right now is here. Barrier came from this direction. Having no sense of our surroundings, I couldn't digest anything about the place he was indicating on the map. We're heading towards the spot where the wallet was found. By the way, that was over here. But see? You're heading to one of the few residents in Takasudo. It's the wrong road. Meaning Dr. Irie came from a direction where there is no residents? As long as somebody's working in the fields between these mountains didn't collapse. But if somebody collapsed and you'd call a doctor, normally you'd bring them back with you for a far more detailed examination. But just now, Dr. Irie said it was nothing serious. And it didn't seem like anybody else was in the car with him. Oh, she didn't say any more than that. I also said nothing more. That doctor just now examined a patient. Close by. Only that. The noisy radio had suddenly gone quiet. The sky had just as suddenly turned an oppressive color. So she mused that it might start to rain. A torrential downpour as though trying not to disappoint him. Eventually, Oshi stopped the car. The only sound broke the silence was the percussion of the rain on the roof and the soft squeak of the windshield wipers. Stupid. Let's do this a bit hush-hush, shall we? Saying that in a quiet voice, he exited the car without an umbrella. Careful not to make any noise. Oshi leaned over, indicating to the other side of the thicket. He was pointing to a prefabricated shed and a car that was parked beside it. The car looked obviously well cared for. It wasn't a vehicle that had been left there for several years. What's that shed? Contains equipment used by the forestry service. I've heard that they don't go near it except in the summertime. Does it belong to somebody from the forestry service then? Don't know. It doesn't look like an official vehicle though. She was playing it cool, but my nervousness was gradually increasing. Just in case, saying that she returned the car. I thought he was going to get an umbrella, but he grabbed the onboard radio set instead. Hello, this is Oshi. He reads? Greetings, Mr. Yes, this is Okonomi SP. Oishi-san, we read you loud and clear. Over. I'm currently in front of the forestry service equipment shed. Not the one in the direction of, Yagouchi, the one in Takasudo. If you head there from Hinamizawa. Affirmative, copy that. There's some suspicious people in the shed. Proceeding to investigate. If you don't hear back from me in 5 minutes, get in touch with the local police substation and have them send a cruiser as soon as possible. If you would, please. Understood. Well then, shall we take a look? Since he was first confined here, he'd heard the sound of the car multiple times. I just thought the far-off sound was more of the same. However, the reaction from his captors was, until now, something he hadn't seen before. He jumped, reacting as shocked by a jolt of electricity and pressed against the window, cautiously peering outside. Then stopped. Somebody from the forestry service? It's bad. Nah, it looks like a cop to me. One of the captors lifted the boy by his collar and pressed the blade against his cheek. Hey kid, keep quiet for a bit. I think you know this, but if you try to shout, there'll be problems. Especially if the guy was sure the doctor had reported things to the police. He had felt relief when he thought he was safe, but not imagining his captors would resort to violence when they were cornered. His anxiety remained unabated. What do we do? Gotta buy time. Take the kid and slip out of the back. Meet the back here when the heat's off. One of the perpetrators grabbed the boy by the collar and forced him to stand. Of course, Toshiki Inugai tried to resist by feigning that his illness had been aggravated by his rough treatment. His captors paid no heed. You tried, child. Bang, bang, bang. The door was violently banged upon. Excuse me. Hello. Bang, 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 bang. The door was banged on again. Toshiki Inugai hesitated for a moment to respond to the voice by yelling. However, when he was being indecisive, his mouth was covered, taking that opportunity away from him. The leader of the captains raised up the outstep. The younger perpetrator nodded in response while keeping the boy's mouth covered, started heading towards the back door. Hello, did you need something? How do you do? This is...
Thank you, Ghost.
This is the place. You wouldn't mind opening the door?
Hi, Ghost. Hope you're doing well today. Always a pleasure to see you. As it is a pleasure to see everyone.
The sudden rain has us in a bit of trouble. I'll just open... The moment the lock was undone, I forced the door open. With the gleam of madness in his eye, he pushed the man aside and stepped into the room. In the small and empty room, he was able to quickly discern that the boy he was looking for was nowhere to be seen. I heard this was an equipment shed for the forestry service. But there's nothing here at all. There was nothing inside the room that would indicate this was an equipment shed. There's only a mountain of blankets indicating that somebody was sleeping here, alongside empty food packets strewn about. It's been empty for some time now. Never seen no equipment stored around here. But this is the Forestry Service building, isn't it? Are you from the Forestry Service? Is this your house? How about you, police? The two of them glared at each other suspiciously. Both Oishi and the man steadfastly refused to reveal their identity before the other did. The man, judging from his sharp look in Oishi's eyes, realized that it would hard to... Okay, that's an interesting sentence. That it would be hard to talk his way out of this one. Yeah, they're missing a beat. Like, I get it. Grammar is hard. English grammar especially is hard when you're translating. But, yeah. No matter what he said, most of the time, goodbye would probably be only a few dozen seconds. Only the sound of the rain filled this tense moment. Just then, hear the sound of a struggle from far off. Or she had a hunch. There was no doubt that Akasaka, who was circling around the back, had run into the perpetrator who was trying to slip away. He done punched a man in the face. So as she thought, the man in front of him reacted a moment faster. The man swung at him with an attack that was more indicated to obscure Oshi's vision than to rather actually hit him in the face. Seizing his opportunity, the man aimed a kick at Oshi's groin without any hesitation. He missed his mark and was unable to land the critical blow. Oh no! The man was trying to pin Oishi, grabbed him by the base of his neck with both hands and fiercely tried to push him down. But as Oishi fell backwards as kicking the man upwards, he dug his foot into the man's midsection. With that leg acting as a fulcrum, the man was flung by the falling Oishi, as if by a circle pole. The two of them spread off in the pouring rain. Isn't this interesting? You wanna go? But he as if to cheer himself on, grinned smugly. Then stood up before shaking mud off himself. Even though he could not be himself, where she was getting rather awkwardly compared to the man who threw. He swiftly sprang to his feet. Oishi-san! Hurry! Akasaka's voice rang out in the distance. Judging from the distress in his voice, he was already engaged in a fight and wanted Oishi reconvene with him. But Oishi's hands were full as well. Akasaka-san! Sorry, but can you wait a bit? The man raised both fists in his stance, but hinted at him being acquainted with karate or some other form of martial art. Of course, Oishi was an officer of the law, was distinctly versed in judo. Decently versed in judo. Oh, we're having a fight. Martial arts fight. He also had the moxie to have been through his fair share of fights before. Because of that, he could tell that the man in front of him was quite a bit better at fighting than he was. Thinking that was only going to be easy. The order came from the Sonozaki family to release the hostages. It's been a big mistake. You're pretty good. It's been a while since I got this worked up. Well, she played off the situation like it was no sweat. And seeing his attitude, if that means she wasn't going to go down easily. Bam! The man wisely charged forward and attempted to grab Oishi. The man managed to successfully flinch from his low stance. Oishi would be tackled to the ground and end up being mounted. That was something you saw from the children's report, but it really wasn't a bad position since it didn't do much once you were in it. But she responded to that move and also wrote the chance to collide with the man head-on. When they clashed, Oishi grabbed the man's lapel. They yanked the lapel upward and smashed into the man's solar plexus with the elbow of the same arm. It was a move from Oishi's own personal brand of crawling judo. He then grabbed with his free hand and attempted to throw his opponent with both hands. Lowered at the center of gravity and swung his arms in a large arc, intertwining them with Oishi's. Not only that, he of course put Oishi's elbows to the outside. Oishi was now in an awkward position and in danger of exposing his back with his hands still touching the man's chest. This judo of rattling didn't he? Oishi twisting the back with his fingers were twisting the man's shirt quickly for the way for Oishi's head. He was still in an awkward position of being bent over. On top of that, at zero range! Dan was able to read Oishi's movement completely as he tried to spring his way into a better position. Bam! And then he took the palm of his hands and swiftly clapped them back over Oishi's ear. Ooh! Ah! Clapping the ear with another martial art. Any other martial art except for self-defense was basically forbidden. Karate and judo didn't recognize it as an illegal technique. This is a brawl, though! You're not an official match! Was that much of a simple and dangerous attack? She raised both his hands to try to reflect the reflection of his own ears. Before that happened, he wrapped around his arms around Oishi's neck. His thick biceps went firmly around the base of Oishi's neck like a vice. I thought he was going to be killed. I'm sorry, you carry the other arms. I know you're going to be fine. That. So it wasn't hard to believe that a man like this was accustomed to fighting to crush his opponent's neck from this position. Look at that. He had chosen to hold on to force Oishi to lose consciousness. You're not that violent. You just want to continue to live. That's why Oishi at the moment like his face was grinning horribly. Oh, thank you. Is that better? He's grinning widely. Even though his opponent had a chance to kill him, he didn't choose to. He was thinking, this guy has no intention of killing me. However, even though that might be the case, the man's hold on his neck was by no means gentle. Thank you for telling me, I appreciate that. In no time at all, Oishi's consciousness began to fade. Having the experience of being taken down countless times in judo during her student days, Oishi was utterly resigned to the fact that it was over. Oh! Let's check it then. Okay. Let's just move that up a little bit. Hopefully that's better. And hopefully just get out of this rain scene. Well, we're still raining. Okay, good. So it was my mic. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. Akasaka had finally recovered from the intense pain of being kicked in a rather sensitive... Oh, so he did get the groin shot. He had bumped into his captor carrying the boy by the back entrance. He had seen Toshiki's Inugai's picture plenty of times, but wasn't able to immediately ascertain if the boy in front of him was the real deal. What with his mouth covered in packing tape. Also, with his limited experience, it wasn't hard for him to panic over how to deal with the situation. It's his first time! Of course, the perpetrator didn't overlook this momentary lapse. His kick landed squarely in a crucial spot, with Akasaka not even having time to call for help. Well, only child. As the man flung the boy over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, he headed towards the front of the shed. But upon hearing Oishi's bellowing voice, he gave up and going in that direction. Then he dashed off towards the forest. As if the weight of the boy slung over his shoulder wasn't even there, Akasaka was lost for a moment. Meeting up with Oishi, who was fighting the enemy, by far was the safer option. But he couldn't just lose sight of the fleeing man. Akasaka stood up and chased after the captor's back. He ran through a short thicket branch, and fallen leaves crunching underfoot. The tips of the branches raked and clawed at him. Small scratches inscribing themselves on the body one after another. He kept on stepping into puddles of mud, and his shoes were soon filled with murky water. Oh no, your ankles! For Akasaka traveling through this unexplored forest was, even though it was an emergency situation, extremely unpleasant. There. Stop! This is the police! As he said that, he regretted it immediately, as it was but a waste of breath. There wasn't a thief in the world who would politely stop if told to stop by the police. To a steady boy like Akasaka, running through this forest was an arduous task. However, it must have been no easy task for the man carrying the minister's grandson. He neither gained nor lost his ground in pursuit. Akasaka, upon realizing that he gained back a bit of his composure, just keep on chasing him. He was running in the same conditions. In fact, the man running with the awkward stride was far more at a disadvantage. He couldn't run forever. Eventually, he'd definitely trip and fall. As long as he was being hounded, he'd definitely stumble. Yet in a forest full of things, and soon his wish was fulfilled. Well, the man who had stepped on something and lost his balance was no longer able to bear the weight of the boy, dropping him. Akasaka, in all honesty, didn't care about the perpetrator at all, just as long as he can ensure the safety of Toshiki Inugai. So if the perpetrator ran off by himself, it was perfectly acceptable. But it seemed like Toshiki Inugai was important to the man as well, and didn't elect to run away empty-handed. Akasaka didn't know what to do in this kind of situation. His first priority should probably be to ensure the safety of the boy. Subduing his captors being less important. Grappling with the perpetrator wasn't something he planned on. But most likely, it was either do or die. Akasaka's moment of indecision proved to be fatal. The man aiming right between, or rather, before Akasaka's eyes, struck out with a jab. Ooh, not wanting that, Akasaka raised his hands to shield his face. At that moment, the man was unguarded midsection. Yeah! The man almost felt like his vital organs were being squeezed out of his body, but he latched onto his opponent's leg. But his opponent didn't hesitate one bit. But aiming with his seized foot, the man jumped at Akasaka, applying pressure, pushing him down. Akasaka wasn't able to withstand that and fell, but under no circumstances was he letting that leg go. Two men fell together in a tangled heap. The man was desperate to pull his leg free from Akasaka, but having fallen in an awkward position, was unable to do. The two of them rolled around on the ground, floundering around, trying to gain an advantage. But Akasaka... Thank you so much! I appreciate it! I hope you enjoy the emotes. Marcy did such a good job with them. In fact, I will shout her out. Because she deserves it. Yes. Good. Completely free to move his upper body, and we're in two completely different situations. Then he gained the positional advantage on Akasaka, who was still latched into his leg and couldn't move away, and pounded full force into his head with both his fists. Not only that, he found a rock. He found a rock nearby and beat it against Akasaka's skull. He found a rock! Whack, whack, whack. Well, bam! The difference between being hit with a fist and being hit with a rock was vast! Akasaka quickly thought of letting go of the man's leg to free his hand to protect his head. But if he let go, The man wouldn't get away. If he didn't dig in here, everything would be all for naught. Boy, he had been trying to save us right there. He was going to save him and go back to Tokyo. To do that, and it was goodbye to this freakish village. More rocks! Without looking, I could tell my forehead had split open and was gushing blood. But if I didn't let go of the man's leg, how could I? I wouldn't let go. I'm like a bulldog in that regard. And the man realized that no matter how much he beat me in the head, he wasn't getting away. He used both my hands to grab my throat as if to crush my windpipe. I held my head back as a slight form of resistance, but it was no use. The man's hand enveloped my neck and began to crush it with a vice. Again, with the like of ice. But it was less about the pain of not being able to breathe so much. I was choking so hard I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like my stomach was going to turn itself inside out. But I could only endure it. Damn it. My throat hurts. I won't let go. I can't let go. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to resolve this and go back to Tokyo. Go back to Tokyo and talk to Yukie. All about our unborn child. We're going to talk about our bright future. No intention of losing my grip. However, I was loosened just a bit, and the man's leg became free. The man kicked as hard as possible, and I tumbled backwards. My head was spinning, and I was unable to get up right away. No, I couldn't even put any strength into getting up in the first place. Even so, I couldn't back down. If I let him escape now, this chance would never come again. Even just catching their scent was nothing short of a miracle. If I weren't able to get into the minister's transom back here, there wouldn't be another chance. The man tried to drag the boy to his feet, but the kid was displaying some unexpected resistance, allowing me to go unnoticed. I grasped the rock the man had just beat me over the head with. Now it's my turn. Yarg! The rock should be a supplement to what needed strength I had left, adding more than enough power to my attack. Well, bam! My fist still wrapped around the rock, dug into the side of the man's torso. Ooh! Seemed like it hurt him quite a bit. Ugh. Gah. The man rolled around for a bit, clutching his side. Freed from the man's grip, the boy hid behind me. Toshiki Inugai, right? I've come to help you. Boy, to the boy. Those were the very words he was waiting for the most. But the crisis was still not over. This was because even though he's still clutching his side, the man had gotten up again, and he'd taken a fighting stance. We're gonna fighting game this. I could see it in the man's eyes, the resentment at the pain I had caused him, and the confidence he could still beat me. What is this, Street Fighter? If we were to clash head-on again, he might not even stop if my head were split open. Stop resisting! Surrender quietly! You should just hand the boy over. Do you want me to snap your neck? Who would listen to you now? Reinforcements are already on their way. There is nowhere for you to run. Man reacted adversely to the word reinforcements. That was because he now knew that arguing like this was just a waste of time and put him closer and closer to danger. Realizing that the man shifted mental gears almost too quickly. Let's finish this fast. How about this? What? The man pulled his back pocket was of all things a gun! Of course I'm a police officer. It's not like I don't know what a gun is. But again, this is Japan! What happened when pointed at me was something I never experienced before. Is it real? Of course it was. There's no way I'd be a replica in a situation like this. The technology for that didn't exist in the 80s. Probably not. Put both your hands behind your head and lay down quietly. Don't get cocky, you villain. I won't do anything you say. You stupid idiot. Do you not know what this... Do you not know what this is without me shooting you with it? Then shoot. Reinforcements will hear the gunshot and head right over here. Are you stupid? We're in the middle of the forest, and on top of that, it's raining. They'll never hear a thing. Like me with my microphone, apparently. As long as he still held that gun, no matter how much I yelled at him, I was at a distinct disadvantage. But I still had a fighting chance. If I were to lose, instead of wasting time yelling at each other like this, I would just shoot him and take the boy. That was the fastest way to express any sort of future resistance from him. The man was demanding me to surrender without having fired a shot, meaning that he either didn't want to shoot or couldn't.
Again, they don't actually want to hurt anybody. They just want to not die and be displaced.
In other words, the man in front of me was soft. If I could try even a little more time, the factors that could lead to my victory were numerous. Why, she was probably on his way. The reinforcements were being called in from over here already. All would be all well on their way too. Not only that, they wouldn't have a chance. They should have contacted the local police box.
Call the doctor. Without any doubt, somebody stationed at the village would be here much quicker than that.
Do I have to put a bullet in you to understand how dangerous this thing is? There's no escape. Don't add to your crimes. At the moment, I heard the rustling of foliage and heavy footsteps approaching. Boy, she was coming here. It was a whole new ball game. Man couldn't have more than one gun.
Oishi-san! Over here!
Huh? I thought this time was on my side, but I had failed to even imagine the enemy could also have reinforcements. Oh no! You could tell the man who had just appeared was one of the perpetrators just by looking at him.
What are you doing?
If you don't hurry up, the police will get here. Stop lollygagging! Damn it. What happened to Oishi-san?
Ah, the chubby fella?
He's down for the count.
He is?
Damn it. Voice sensitive to the impending danger curled up behind my back. What could this be? Damn it. Your buddy isn't coming. Serves you right. Shoes on the other foot now. As the back up against a large tree that was while still protecting the boy, the second man also pulled out a gun. Won't be saying this twice. Put your hands on your head and lie down. I refuse. Bang. As I shouted in protest, blood erupted from my left shoulder. It took me a moment to register that I had been shot. Compared to the ones on the movies and TV dramas, the first actual gunshot I heard was simple and mundane. Very true. In fact, the sound was more akin to a small firework I used to buy at the corner store as a kid. Yeah, most actual violence is very quiet, and TV edits it to sound more dramatic than it actually is. There was no comparing the pain. It's fear you only knew after you'd been shot. Sir, are you okay? Are you okay? The boy in his confusion tugged at my clothes, agitated the wound even further. Oh, child! I wanted to put on a wolf face and reassure him, but my voice was hoarse and had the opposite effect.
I'm all right. I've already called for backup.
There'll be full squad here soon.
Yeah.
It'll be quicker to put you through your head before the cops get here. But the family said no needless killing, so I'm taking it easy on ya. Don't mess with me or I ain't holding back. Oh, this was bad. It was very, very bad. The second man was a completely different beast than the first. He had no signs of indecisiveness or mercy. This man said he'd shoot. He wasn't somebody that a man like me could buy time from. I really hated to admit it, but that moment the image of Yuki's smiling face crossed back in my mind. I knew what that meant. I was warning myself not to throw my life away over a matter of pride. Of course I didn't want to die here. I was just starting a new life with Yuki, and I wanted to see the face of her soon-to-be-born child. Why should I risk my life for some minister's grandson when I was at a crucial juncture in my own life? God damn it. I needed to stop rambling at myself. So what do I do now? Give up the boy and extend my own life? What a good idea. Everybody's life is precious. My own life was in danger. Nobody would blame me. God damn it, it hurts. If I'd known it would be this painful, I wouldn't have played the tough guy. My biggest miscalculation, though, was that the sound of the gunshot was far quieter than I had imagined. If it was only that loud, it would be drowned out by the rain in the forest. It wasn't something that somebody far away could hear. Wait, just wait. I don't want to die. and I don't want to kill you. As long as you understand, don't shoot, okay? Don't shoot. I have a wife waiting for me at home. I don't want to die. I want you so long as you don't yell or nothing. Quietly put your hands on top of your head and lie down. Will you really? Will you really? You keep your promise, right? It's a promise between men. I will. It's a promise between men. Keep your promise. Keep it. I'm going to get down on the ground, okay? I'm getting down. Keep my promise. So stop pointing the gun at me. You're still thinking of shooting me, aren't you? Oh, the paranoia is bad in this one. You want to shoot me, don't you? I get down on the ground. You're just going to shoot me in the back of the head, aren't you? I won! Fine. I'll put it away. Put that gun away. It's a promise between... He's trying to be honorable. Ah! There. No problem now, right? Yeah, absolutely. No points. Ugh. It was over in a flash. The moment he lowered his gun, Oishi didn't let his chance slip by. Oishi had been assessing the situation quietly for some time behind the two men. But since they had their guns trained on me, he didn't really have a chance to jump in. Seeing look on Oishi's face indicating that he wanted me to create an opening, I took on that role completely. Oishi forcefully lifted up the arm that was holding the gun, then took the gun from the man's hand in an instant. The other man, who was a bit slow in grasping what was happening, pointed his gun at them. His allies, grappling with Oishi, couldn't pull the trigger. If that man was the one that was wrestling with Oishi at that moment, he might have shot without hesitation. This man wouldn't shoot. He couldn't shoot. Oishi kicked the other man away while aiming the stolen gun with his left hand and pulled out his own. With guns akimbo, he was aiming at both men at the same time. I do believe that's checkmate. It was perfectly played. But heedless of the guns pointed at them, the men shouted, "Scram!" as they scattered at full speed. It was over in an instant. Those two running away without putting up a fight was honestly unexpected. Oishi quietly clicked his tongue in admonishment and slipped both guns into his pants pocket. Those guys know their stuff. What do you mean? An officer wouldn't fire at somebody who's fleeing. I want to keep my pension here. Oishi and I grinned at each other. Are you Toshiki Inugai? The grandson of Minister Construction Inugai? Yes. This is going to be a major incident. We probably only cut the tail off the lizard, though. Oishi smiled amusedly. The fact that the Onigatachi Defense Alliance, or rather the Sonozake family behind them, was pulling the strings was apparent, but proving it wouldn't be easy. And with apologies to Oishi, this incident was unlikely to go public. If this caused an uproar, it would obviously lead to the minister losing his office. With HQ having decided that doing so in the national interest, this would probably be cleaned up quietly. It might be a rough way of saying it, but this was born in the shadows and was going to die in the shadows. Oishi probably understood the implications behind this incident. For the time being, let's cordon the area off. Since it seems that one of them still has a gun. After that, let's get Inugai-kun to safety and get you to the hospital. As the tension in the situation faded, the pain from the gunshot wound in my shoulder blossomed once again. My forehead was also stingingly painful and had grown hot enough to start a fire. Thinking that the tension caused me to sweat, I wiped my forehead, but what came off was a large amount of blood. Yeah, you are bleeding! I realized that my shirt had been stained bright crimson from blood flowing from my head. My guy! You have many ouchies! I turned around. The boy was safe and sound, without a doubt. There'd probably be an investigation on the men who ran, but that was for another day. At this point in time, I could safely say that we'd cleared a major hurdle in securing the boy's safety. Da-da-da-da! As soon as I recognized that, it felt like the lights in my head had been hit by a power failure. My knees buckled from underneath me to the ground. There was feeling as soft as a cloud, even though you went kerthunk. Didn't feel unpleasant even as I was covered in the rain-soaked mud. As she came closer, asking me if I was okay, but somehow I couldn't tell. I turned off the switch and to the last light in my head. It's like, he goes night-night now. It is nap time. He's done so much. The exhaustion enveloped me. Sleep. Something softer than any blanket wrapped around me. It is nap time. Okay, there is a new tip. Which, how many chapters is that? Let's save it real quick before we do the tip. So, end of chapter 3 is where we started. End of chapter... So, all of that was one chapter. Are you kidding me? Anyway. To the new tip. Patients admitted to the hospital can only accept calls at fixed times. That's why she wouldn't be receiving a call from him today. One moment while I order myself some food. Yesterday she had teased him that he got lonely easily, so he might have struggled with the idea of calling her sooner. That was much easier to imagine, rather than that he might just be too busy to call. Because he's just that type of person. Yuki, whispering that, smiled to herself. The announcement that visiting hours were over played over the hospital intercom, along with some music. She exchanged pleasantries with the family of the patient that was staying in the same room as her. Probably eager for his mother to be discharged, their small child was wearing a beaming smile. Child's mother was pregnant in the bed next to mine. That child's mother was pregnant in the bed next to mine, with what may be his new brother or sister. They were probably ready to burst with the expectations, dreams, and worries of having a new sibling. Joys of a growing family. Bathing in those warm feelings, I stroked my own belly, which had grown quite large. I had talked with him about how many children we wanted to have. We talked about, if we had 3, it would certainly be lively. However, there was an inescapable worry about whether I would be able to handle giving birth that many times. There isn't a mother out there who would hate to give birth because of that worry, though. Yuki smiled as she said to herself, as she gently stroked her stomach. The Metropolitan Safety Division. The place where that man's sense of justice had led him. That person was actually a very gentle, very fragile person. He didn't talk much about the specifics, but I didn't think he was suited for the assignment he was on right now. But as long as he said he was going to try his best, I would watch over him warmly. Your father, you see, is a very hard worker, you know? Ichika-chika. Yukie seemed to be enjoying herself as she talked to her own belly. At that moment, Yukie suddenly became concerned about something, and looked out to the window. It used to be this time, long ago. She remembered that when she was little, around this time in the countryside, where her grandmother lived, the Higurashi would fill the air with their chorus. This was the middle of Tokyo. Unlike the countryside, you couldn't hear the song of the Higurashi. But for some reason, at that moment, Yukie felt like she wanted to hear the song. Oh no! Are we back? Hopefully we're back. Let's save. Save. Let's do another half a chapter. Let's see where this goes. Continue. What? Nope. That was my first time losing consciousness. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it. Hello? Are you okay? Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seemed my body language had told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. Scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting through me. Don't try to get up, just stay lying down, please. It seems like you took quite a few blows to the head. Yes, from a rock! I wanted you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Where is this? This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you, my name is Irie. I remember that young-looking doctor and the one in the car headed in the opposite way earlier. Is there somebody there? Or is Oishi-san? Ah, I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside. Dr. Irie left the room to go call Oishi. The scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. Pouring rain had stopped, and the voices of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voices was comforting. Eventually, I could hear the heavy footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be Oishi. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door of the room flew open, allowing Dr. Irie and Oishi to enter. So there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assessed the wound. His head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I want to have a little chat with him for a bit. Do you mind? Yeah, go ahead. Call me if anything happens. Oishi, after basically forcing Dr. Irie outside, shut the door. How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over. Nyahaha. Oishi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed. Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. They probably already fled to the prefecture, or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. What about the minister's grandson? They're taking care of him at the station. But your colleagues from Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing be recorded. Shige-chan doesn't like that too much, nah. The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended up without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated to the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. But something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over. Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is rather unseemly placed, don't you? No. We all work on the government's dime. She laughed boisterously. When we first met, I had somewhat prejudice against Oishi, but now the feeling was gone completely. It would be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we wouldn't be able to have something to go on at the Sonozaki's family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just start poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you going to continue the fight against the Sonosaki family after this? Nah. There's all sorts of dark rumors swirling around them, but it's not like I have any personal grudge. It'd be wise not to step on any toes here. Haha. Oh, she laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along. Oh, that's right. There was word at the station about from the prefectural police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya and are driving right up here right now. You've got the battle scars, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently. That's how it's shaking up. Good job. Your work in Okonomiya is safely over. I was being recalled to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed the sigh of relief when I heard those two words. I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Oishi-san. It seems the collaboration fee I paid to you didn't go to waste. Nahaha. I kind of meant that as a joke, though. Oishi took out his own wallet and casually pulled out several large bills and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt. This isn't a refund on your collaboration fee, you hear? This is just me gifting you a little spending money. The booze around here is pretty good. Use that to buy yourself a little souvenir. She flashed me a grin. If your injuries turn out to be not too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will you? The old man and Sato-san said they'd like to sit at a table with you again. Oh my, I can't refute that. And no tricks this time. Just plain old fun. They always say that. This world is done for if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. Nahaha. It's not that often we meet someone who's more than a match for us. It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo. When I heard the words going back to Tokyo from Oishi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Go back to your wife. Soon Yukie would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had one time given up on. When I thought of that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yukie at once. Can you pretend like your injuries are a bit more serious and hang around Okonomiya for a bit? Can I I can introduce you to a few more nice places. Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. Ha ha ha. I'm terribly sorry, but I have to take a rain check on that. My wife is due to give birth any day now. I want to hurry back home. Oh my. I didn't know that. Then you shouldn't be hanging around here. You have to hurry back home. For a while after that, Oishi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me. Well then, how do you feel? Think you can get up? Yeah, it's not that bad, thanks to you. I can get up and walk, no problem. I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Oishi. Yeah, I just thought you might not be able to feel comfortable in a hospital at Hinamazawa. Dr. Irie said he wanted you to stay overnight. But we still haven't caught the perpetrators. For the time being, this is enemy territory for you after all. Are you saying this hospital isn't safe? Nah. Well, Dr. Irie is somebody who's well regarded in this community. I don't think anything will happen to you if you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health. I'd relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but what was exactly as Oishi had said. Sentences. When I realized that this was enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. With only a few things left for me to do was to leave. The chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low. But that didn't mean I was completely safe. That's right. I'm just going to be lying down, then doing it in a hotel bed wouldn't be all that different. Right. I also think that's for the best. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Oishi's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours where I could call Yuki at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I would soon be back by her side. I want to call Yuki at the hospital. Is there a public phone in the lobby? Nahaha. You newlyweds are all like this. If I recall correctly, There's one by the register. I'll be waiting here, so go ahead. Oishi laughed while saying he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative of how considerate Oishi was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. The lobby was just a short distance down to the hallway from the hospital room. I thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course there was nothing compared to the general hospital Yukie was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't best for manners, but calling hours would soon end, so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning on having a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would be embarrassing to have someone listen into a conversation between me and Yukie. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pocket, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through the amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver and inserted a coin and dialed the number for Yukie's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. Where. Number for Yukie's hospital. It had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it in inevitably took some time. Normally, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but currently any time was precious. However, I felt like something was strange as I was dialing the number. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Somehow I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone, and without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again.
Hello, kitty. Yeah, hello.
Oh, you're so warm.
You're so warm.
The coin popped out of the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, and the receiver was still dead silent. What is this? Is it disconnected? While I was wasting time like this, the amount I had to spend talking with Yukie shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient. Excuse me. I feel the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over. Yes, how can I help you? Pardon me, this phone seems to be acting a little strange. Could you take a look at it? The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Yeah, they're gonna do their best. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he. Huh? What's this? The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed. What the heck is that? Well, this is a dilly of a pickle. Can't do anything with this until somebody comes from the phone company and fixes it. Oh no. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use the one in the office? I didn't want people in the hospital around while I was talking. Is there another payphone close by? Let's see, if you leave here and follow the road, you'll come to the shopping district. There's a smoke shop in the corner around there. If you head that way, you should be able to find one soon enough. I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. I mean, come on, my guy. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that was where the impetuousness of youth came in. Choosing the chance to talk with Yukie for even a little longer, I headed out in my current state. Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find one soon enough. Those 2 lines, as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital. Ooh, your injuries. With the village nestled in the valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse streetlights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their chorus was soon at a close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was it just getting farther away? Just as I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My choice spurred me onwards. Just as I had heard the hospital sat next to the counter, the cigarette shop was acquainted with a payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much time left, though. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yuki that my job was done and I would be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid the coin down in the slot. But I felt something was strange. Just like at the hospital. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting the coin in one more time. But there was absolutely no response. The phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord and protruded from the back of the phone. Being that my hands found the end of a completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was complete, but accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut. Excuse me. Hello? Opening up the booth window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were sounds of somebody plodding along down the stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding and lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic. You need some cigarettes? I'll need to get my husband. I'm not here to buy cigarettes. Rather, this phone here. Realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words. Sorry, it seems this phone is broken, and I was wondering if you could tell me if there's another payphone? The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly, as if chewing on the meaning of the words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she digested things thoroughly. So the phone's broken? That's a dilly of a pickle. You should try another payphone. The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Her way of telling me was sort of long-winded that I inadvertently started getting impatient. At that moment, I spotted a clock in the dim interior of the store. The minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here I could use, I would only be able to tell Yuki a good night with what little time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone which I didn't know the exact distance to. If I was in a normal state of mind, deciding to give up to the phone today would have been a natural thought process. But at this moment I had become somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use the phone in the hospital and coming out here, and still being unable to use one. There was no mistaking that I had been quite insistent on using a phone. Thank you very much. I'll try looking for that phone booth. Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite far away, it would be easy to find. If I just followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it. Sandals flapping as I ran, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling Yukie. But there were days when I was tired or busy when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered in injuries, and I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. But having twice been foiled by trying to call her, had I become hot-headed about it? Yes! Yes, you have! Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangling in my face? What am I doing? Ahaha. Even so, I somehow couldn't quite quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. It was like this with the hospital phone, and the same one at the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed by long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who, and for what reason? The more I thought about it, the uneasier I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? Scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about a lonely road. The surrounding area had grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it would be quite obvious that I was far removed from the hospital. I recalled the clock at the tobacco shop. It might be almost time. I'd run for quite a bit, so my breathing had gone quite ragged. If I had just wanted to hear Yuki's voice, I should have thrown off my reservations and borrowed the phone from the office. Uh-huh! You should have just done that, you goober! But no, that wouldn't have done with the dramatics of this. I regretted it a little. Well then, it's about time to give up. Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed that the light in the phone booth had recently been changed. It has been shown with a vivid white light. Although the gloom of Hinamazawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But in any case, I had finally found it. As my hand touched the door to the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yukie. Since I had spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that the phone cord might be severed as well. How was the cord in this phone booth? Squatting down, I found a bunch of cables as they ran through the corner of the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far along the line to check it out. The only thing that I found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wonder if it was popular in Hinamazawa to cut the cords of the payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to talk to Oishi about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it's still vandalism to public property. In any case, this one was fine. This time. Putting out a coin out of my pocket in one hand, I picked up the receiver in the other. But this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance. What the hell is this? The coiled cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, the tip of the cable swaying in the air. It was all I could do to restrain myself, as raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up to the small of my back. It was a type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass wall in the booth, leaving me unable to see the outside of the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with that strong light, which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel the chill wash over me. And there was the silhouette of a person. A small silhouette. The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cold breeze.
Injured people shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew she was that girl.
Right, Akasaka?
She, Rika Furude, said it almost like it was a warning.
Did you do this to the phone cord?
Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions.
Why would you do something like this? Why?
The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid.
There's nothing that can be done.
Huh? I interpreted her words meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But thinking about that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair would have been an illusion that time had stopped.
I know very well that you think I'm disgusting, Akasaka.
Huh? No. That's not true. My denial came out like a bad piece of poetry at a composed. My denial came out like a bad piece composed for a poetry slam. But her words were right on the mark. I had always felt something ominous and uncanny about her, ever since that strange threats at the shrine. She had noticed my expression was contrary to my words and seemed laughing at the gap between them.
Akasaka, you coward.
I am not a coward. Being laughed at by this small child didn't sit well with me. So I said it.
Even if you find another phone, it's too late.
That's right. She didn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached the phone booth. It was too late and I had no option but to give up for today. Once I decided that my unhealthy obsession with the phone suddenly faded. Even though it was strange that I was that obsessed. The strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals. My head wrapped in bandages and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. With wanting to hear Yuki's voice as my motive, I had trapezed around town the entire evening. You were the local cryptid, good for you. I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. You just missed your wife! In any case, it was all I could do to laugh at myself.
Now, there's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight.
You're right, there's nothing. I'll just quietly return to the hospital.
That's fine. Do you know the way?
I hope I do. She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost. Is Rika-chan's house also this way?
It is.
Won't your parents be mad that you're walking out alone at this hour?
Not really. My parents are busy today, so they probably forgot about me.
Even then, it's best for you to head home. They'll definitely be angry.
Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka, so I'm fine.
She said that with a face free from worry as she looked up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, the eerie feeling around her faded. But even then, she was still mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned to earlier, but it was much darker than before, and the point of view changed on the return trip. I wasn't very confident that this was actually the corner I turned at. There's no mistake, it had to be this corner. As I began to move my feet again, the girl grabbed onto my clothes.
Isn't Akasaka going back to the hospital?
Of course, at least I intend to. Am I going the wrong way? A short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding onto my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on. Okay, so this is where I will call it, because my food should be arriving here soon. Alright, so let's go to the menu. Hit a save. And hopefully, depending on how long this is, I might be able to finish this arc shortly, and then we'll get into the answer arcs. Thank you all for joining me. I hope it was a nice time. I appreciate everybody who came out today. Let's find somebody to raid.
Let's see, who do we want?
Oh, no, we're going to dock because it's Soul Link time! Oh, those PNGs are great. Oh my goodness. So, they're doing a Pokemon Emerald Soul Link. So, we'll do that. But, first we're gonna do the usual spooky story time, right?
And so then I'm gonna send you all off. I hope everybody has a good rest of their day. And I appreciate you all very much. I hope you know that.
Why did I unrate it? You silly person. Let's go back to this. Start the thing. Actually be patient enough for the thing. Yeah, that was on me. Okay, now we're going.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.